Okay, hello, good morning here in Costa Rica, good afternoon there in Tunisia, and I hope you are great. You are having an excellent day. So, welcome to our teacher interview number 11. So, for today, we have a special guest from Tunisia. So, I'm going to make a huge introduction for her. Actually, she's very special, so she knows a lot about education, and we are going to learn a lot from her. Just to introduce her, okay, so I would like to mention that uh, Yousra, Yousra Ferchichi is a PhD candidate in TESOL and a master degree holder in English, specializing in cross-cultural studies in English. She is CELTA qualified Delta candidate and TESOL trainer, certified ICF, yoga, and mindfulness coach. She is accredited as an auditor for quality in educational programs and training institutions by Alexa and has been active in LT since 2009. Currently, she teaches at a private university in Tunisia. Joshua served as TEFL Kuwait's media and PR manager from 2022 to 2023 and a member of steering committee of a TESOL called IS, Computer Assisted Language Learning, at the TESOL International Association. She founded the Ikigai and Kaizen podcasts and chaired TEFL Kuwait's Partnerships and for Sustainable Education PSE SDG. Joshua integrates ICF coaching into her teaching and trains professionals to incorporate coaching practices in the sustainable development goals into their fields. As a public speaker, Joshua facilitates the coaching experience of many clients in academia and corporate organizations. She was a jury and academic advisor at various educational and entrepreneurship competitions and events such as with Oxford University Press and Enactus respectively. She is a founder and chair of the AIDT, Artificial Intelligence and Digital Technologies, at the TESOL Conferences Association. Previously, TESOL Arabia and the upcoming Vice President membership at Dubai Legends Toast Masters Club. Okay, so welcome, and it's a pleasure for me and for the audience to having you here.
Thank you so much, Eric. And I'm sorry that you had to go through the long intro in the long bio, but I really appreciate being here. And to everybody who's watching us, thank you so much for tuning in and watching today's interview.
Okay,
Ready?
great. Yeah, actually, it's very important for the audience and people who are going to join to this interview that they have the opportunity to comment on Facebook, and also if they have questions and they want to ask questions to our special guest, or in this case for me, related to education in Costa Rica. So we have a lot of friends from Egypt and also in Cameroon, Nigeria. Probably they are busy because they are attending the conference in Tanzania. Okay, so we know that one is now in progress, and probably they are busy. No, so we know the schedule. It's a little bit complicated. Okay, for example, here in Costa Rica, 8 a.m. and there in Tunisia, 4. I don't remember Egypt, but I was familiar with that time as well. But feel free to type in the chat. Okay, so actually we have the first comment. That's my son Jeremy. So it says hello to teacher Eric, and yes, and hello to actually Yousra. It's
Yes.
that okay? Yousra.
Yes. As you
Okay.
like. feel free to say it the way you want to avoid confusion. That's what I usually do with my guests. So I ask them, how do you like your name to be pronounced? But sometimes they pronounce it Yousra. It's like, it's different. But yes, thank you, Eric. You pronounce it
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Great for me. Okay. Now, the idea of these interviews, okay, this interview and the previous ones, okay, it's talk about education, it's talk about how important it is to be updated in terms of technology. So we know technology is here, and we are going to divide this interview into different questions, okay, related to that. And while we get more audience for this interview. So, to start this interview, as I was mentioning, okay, technology. So we cannot avoid technology. We need to take technology and take it to our classes because nowadays it's necessary. So kids are born with a chip. Okay, so totally different than when we were kids. Okay, now they know many things. They don't even know how to read or how to write down, and they know how to use technology. Just pay attention to colors and patterns. Okay, so that's why I have this question: how has the educational system in Tunisia adapted to changes in technology and remote learning?
Thank you so much for this question, Eric. And I would like to address this topic right from the beginning. A lot of people have been talking about AI nowadays, but there is something really much more older in time in Tunis. It was in the 80s. We used to hold conferences, and there was an very old one about AI, and people see it maybe as a threat. So people trying to hypothesize what can the world look like with AI. So that at that time, we started exploring just like everybody else in the world, technology, let's say. And to tell you the truth, here it's like in Tunis, we're very techy. A lot of students, be it from K to 12 or maybe after, they're keen on using technology. As you mentioned, from a younger age, a lot of people, they're really keen on using mobile phones, tablets. So sometimes it's like the opposite way around. It's like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they show us how to use things.
Mhm.
And here in Tunis, it's part of the strategy. That's from early ages, in the curricula, in the teaching strategies from primary school, let's say. We tend to implement this. It's not easy sometimes with some regions here in Tunis. The disparity is still something to be addressed, but we're doing our best to make this equitable and make it inclusive as much as we can. So Tunisians, they like technology so much. And we've been, pioneers. We do have, for instance, engineers working for NASA, like Mohammed Al-Awsat Al-Ayari, and we have Mohammed Abid. So they're very well-known engineers and successful. In Tunisians, we're shining on bright just like everybody else, and we like technology so much.
Okay, excellent. Now, that's very important for sure. Okay, technology. So it's going to make more interactive classes. And I have an extra question related to this one. And how can teachers effectively integrate technology into their daily lessons?
Thank you for this question, Eric. So technology and digital tools, basically, because technology can be different. It can be electronic, it can be electric, it can be motor technology. But to talk about digital technology in the class, teachers really nowadays, from what I noticed from my network here in Tunis, and not necessarily in Tunis, the capital, I'm talking about Tunisia, generally speaking. So they do implement this in their classes, and they're really interested in knowing what's new about this. They take in teacher training for this. How do they apply it? So I'll tell you about a recent experience that I had as a jury member in a competition for young learners. And this competition is based on collecting projects and success stories from the whole country. And I was amazed, honestly, by the quality of the projects, by the presentations. It's not like the children, they just present the presentation and just read from the slides, for instance. They present real projects, for instance, in robotics. So this shows they came with their teachers, actually. And I had a quick talk with some of the colleagues in the background, after we finished, after the competition, to network and to have a quick talk. Teachers, they're really aware of us. And if they don't catch up with the flow, they don't really take those teacher training sessions and be up to date, they can miss a lot because students, they're far way ahead from us. So how they can apply this in different ways. It can be, for instance, in video creation format. Sometimes we have podcast creation as well, though that's what I do myself. I teach English through podcasts, so students, they can learn and improve their listening and speaking skills. And this enables us to create authentic material as well, and include the cultural aspect, as we've mentioned. So it's different from a student who's learning English as a foreign language to listen to another colleague having approximately the same pronunciation, the same variations, than to listen at first to a native speaker. So it's essential to have that, hybrid experience and diverse in a class. So technology can be in different ways, basically through few examples. If you want me to elaborate, I can. So.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you for that answer. Actually, it has a lot of information related to how technology is integrated in your educational system. And also, I know in your case, so you work for private institutions, okay? So it's not about public institutions. Here, for example, I work for both public and private at university, in public education, high school, or even primary school as well, and my private classes as well as virtual English courses. And we do implement technology. Now, we were talking about, by messages, some challenges that we are going to talk about later. But obviously, the difference between private and public is it's huge. Okay, so we cannot compare private and public education because we have different let's say economical or different levels in public education. So maybe a lot of kids have access to internet, and we have another places that don't have access to internet, and that's a huge problem we need to deal with. So technology is good, but we cannot forget the old way to teach as well. So if you don't have technology, so you need to find out a way to overcome that challenge. Okay, but that will be part of a
Can I elaborate on something? Can I elaborate on something, Eric? So this is related to private and public institutions. Actually, I had a 5-year experience at the beginning with public universities. I was teaching initially at a public university in Tunis called ESSEC, and it's very well known for business studies. And as you mentioned, the dynamics can be different, but still, even public institutions now, they're doing their best to uplift and upscale those the level, let's say, and face those challenges in what we call now the sustainable development. So we're doing our best to make education as inclusive as possible. And as you said, sometimes the public institutions, they struggle a little bit with budget. It's like if we compare it to public institutions. So just we have approximately the same dynamics, let's say, here and there.
Okay, great. So thank you. Now, there we have, okay, so we can address the following question. Okay, now we know that we need time, for example, to learn about how to use technology. For example, in my case, I like to use it. I like to use Nearpod. I don't know if you know that educational platform, but actually it's amazing because you can adapt or you can add your previous PowerPoint presentations and you can make them more interactive for your students. And most of students in the class have a cell phones. Okay, so those
Yes,
devices, tablets, and we can take advantage of that. So you want to use it in class, so let's use it in this way,
that's
not
right.
sending messages, not checking your social media. Okay, so you
We
know
need
that,
tools.
and that's a problem. Yes, and that's a problem we face
Yeah.
now. So we know we need time, and we need time for family. We need time for our free time activities, and also we need time to plan our classes. Now, what advice, okay, would you give to teachers to feel overwhelmed by digital tools?
Do you mean what piece of advice can I give to teachers who feel overwhelmed by technology?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So, as you mentioned, and that's something that I really believe in, I'm a proponent of being smart teachers, not using smart devices. In the sense, what's the purpose of a teacher owning or having in the school a smart board? They don't know how to use it, or maybe they overuse it and they forget about how a lesson should be, what's a lesson plan, how a lesson,
Hmm.
which part should I start with, and then how can I make this activity controlled, less controlled, where exactly can I put the free practice, where should I let my students to be more autonomous. It's like having a smart device is nice, it's good, as long as it's not an accessory. So let's say having smart teachers is far way more important. Human intelligence is more important for me than digital tools, because what's the purpose of, as I said, forget about pedagogy, forgetting about andragogy, let's say, in not knowing how, just knowing how to use devices, impressing, we call it, teaching to impress. And then by the end of the lesson, students will get out of the classroom and knowing how to use a technological tool, or let's say a platform, and not speak English properly. So the purpose is like facilitating the learning experience as much as we can, using, for instance, ChatGPT speaking assistants for students.
Hmm.
I had a student of mine who really wanted me to be his tutor for preparing his IELTS test. So I trained him a little bit. Then I showed him the technique, how he can train ChatGPT to be the speaking partner that he was seeking. So it's like taking a little bit less that control of teachers and letting technology not lead, but letting students choose sometimes what do they want to do in the lesson? What kind of lesson do they want to have? It's really important, actually.
Okay, great. Now, according to your answer, so we can address to the following question as a trainer. So I know you are an excellent coach and trainer for teachers. So what skills do you think are very important when preparing educators for modern classes?
Could you repeat the last part, Eric? A little bit. Your screen was a little bit. Maybe it's my internet connection. It froze a little bit. Just can you repeat just the question?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
as a trainer, okay,
Yes.
as a teacher trainer, okay. So what skills do you think, okay, are important to explain or show to future teachers when preparing educators for modern classes?
I think as a trainer, even though we do like transfer of knowledge, we do facilitate the training experience, but we let teachers be in themselves. The piece of advice is like letting teachers be in themselves in class and in
Hmm.
choosing their own teaching philosophy, let's say. It's good that we have a common backbone that everybody should have. For instance, if let's say at a school or at university we do have policies for using AI in a particular sense. For instance, we say that teachers should not prepare their lesson plans with ChatGPT, or maybe generate ready-made lesson plans and take them to class. Ethically speaking, this really should be, let's say, the common ground to everybody. Skills is like, as I said, being smart and not only using smart tools. So the piece of advice is letting teachers being themselves, but at the same time, not let everyone just, artistically, creatively being here and there. It's good to have things homogenized. It's good to have a common interest, a common ground. Let's say a syllabus that everybody will be following. And then the extra activity, let's do what's essential first. And then if teachers want to really improvise, add their personal touch, just like Salt Bay, okay, they can add that personal touch. But first, what's essential should be there. Language should be taught. And taught according to 21st century skills. It's not like match the words with the definitions and gap filling or MCQs. That's really outdated for nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, now, and what about the role of teachers? Okay, when they need to integrate artificial intelligence and other technologies in our classes. So, how do you see the role of those teachers involving with integration of AI and other technologies in the class?
A lot of, before AI, a little bit with AI and remote teaching, a lot of people said teaching is among the professions that is going to disappear. A lot of people, they were scared that teachers will lose their jobs.
That's true.
Exactly. So saying that the teacher will lose a job was really just like once we had, for instance, before internet, people were saying, no, people are no longer going to read books. It's approximately the same idea. Here, it's like, what makes it really interesting is like teachers, they're not going to lose their jobs. But on the contrary, their jobs, they have been powered now with AI. They become facilitators. And by facilitate is like children, students, they no longer learn the same way. It's not like lecturing mode. A lot of student-centered approaches, among them project-based learning, task-based learning, inquiry-based learning, students coming up with their learning questions themselves. VR, now I'm adapting as well. VR students, they create their own worlds. Do you remember Minecraft? And a lot of students, they do create their world in Minecraft. Now they've taken it with VR. I had a lesson at the end of the semester where I had to really sum up everything that we've learned at the end of the year through creating a VR world, and we had a meeting in that VR world. I was a spectator, I was an observer, and the students, they had so much fun. They really laughed out loud, and they recorded this and they sent it, and it was optional if they want to make this to be a project or not, because still there's some students, they're getting used to using VR. It's like a skill to be learned. So teachers nowadays, they're not going to lose their jobs, hopefully. But I think AI powered their classrooms, and it made us, myself included, it took my lessons to the next level. It's impressive. For instance,
for sure.
I had just quickly, so that I allow you really to finish on time today. So we had videos with AI. It was last year. Last year, students, they generated photos, they animated the photos, and all of this was with AI. Did I lose my job? No. I was proud of that so much. And
Actually, we are improving, and we are making classes different for students.
It is actually.
And that's how it works. Now, so we know artificial intelligence is here. So people use ChatGPT, okay, as a main source sometimes. So we know maybe it's not a yes, okay. So you need to check the information first before to continue, okay, with your research. So it can help. It can help a lot, okay, to what you're looking for, but you need to investigate more. Now, and that's the problem. So we don't know how to use it in a correct way.
Somehow.
Okay. And And that's why it's important to have a training about it. So how to use it, how you can take advantage of this. And for example, students have to learn that that's an important tool for to support their homeworks or their classes, not to replace homework for that, or
Exactly.
yeah, or take the information, copy and paste it, and we're done. And they are not going to learn anything. So
Exactly.
based on what they find in this, for example, ChatGPT, which is the most common AI tool that people use, because we have many of them. But in my case, I haven't had the time to look for more options. But we need to learn that, and we need to teach that it's an important tool, but not to copy and paste what they are looking for.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why before teaching anything related to technology, we should really raise awareness when it comes to ethics. Ethically speaking, we expect a student to deliver a homework, submit the homework, which is not done by ChatGPT, whereas the teacher shows up to class having a lesson plan exactly copied and pasted from ChatGPT. What do you expect what do you expect the students
Mm-hmm.
to kind of show up afterwards? So they do portray the same behavior we model. So first of all, before using any tool, for me, I took it as a habit, talking to students, checking their interest, asking for suggestions, because sometimes, I have something called the wheel. I use it. It's like the pedagogy wheel. I use it. It's like full of apps, phone apps. I rely on mobile learning a lot because I know students, they have also always their mobile at hand. So I took it as a habit to ask my students, what do you prefer to see next in the class? Or after the lesson, when we talk about the takeaways, how was the lesson? If this lesson was to be taught differently, what should I change in it for the next time? Or maybe for your friends for the next group. So basically, having a clear communication is really essential, so that to raise awareness about the risks of AI, because not everything is to be trusted, as you said. Even ChatGPT mentioned below as a disclaimer. It's machine learning, Eric. So if people really know exactly, so I'm sure they know, but sometimes language teachers, they have to go deep into that. The machine learning, it's like whatever you put into that chatbot, it can give you those results. Everyone can create a chatbot, and ChatGPT is just collecting our data. Also, careful what to share with the chatbot.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So we need to be careful in that part. And what access you are going to give to those apps as well. Okay, because you can say I accept, I accept, I accept, and you continue, but you have no idea what you are accepting.
They have access to your
Okay.
photos, to your personal life, to everything.
Yeah. And so we were talking about one important let's say strategy that we can implement in our classes. For example, you were mentioning Minecraft. Okay, so I would like to talk about it, but I don't want to uh, go away from what we already have.
Yeah.
But implementing games, or implementing, in this case, video games,
Yeah.
in that way, we are going to give the students the opportunity to be themselves. Okay, so if you like that, talk about it. Okay, so tell
Exactly.
me. Now, I have a actually, I was going to ask this question later, but I would like to know, and for sure people would like to know as well, and what's the main language in Tunisia? I mean, is it English, or is English main language as well, or how many languages do you speak? For example, you told me by messages, and also here at the beginning, before we start our interview,
Yeah.
that you have, I don't know, you are near Greece and in Italy, and probably
Mediterranean.
you,
Yes.
yes, and probably you speak.
Yeah.
I mean, you as your country have the opportunity to speak Italian,
We do.
Greek, and I don't know. Tell me about languages in your country.
Thank you so much, Eric, for this question. And so to begin with, first of all, there are a lot of phases and a lot of versions of Tunisia that I'm very proud of talking about today. So our first language is Arabic, but it depends sometimes so how people they identify themselves with. So there are, for instance, Tunisia 1.0, there is Tunisia 2.0, and there's another Tunisia coming up 3.0.
Mhm.
So they're segmented according to time, over time in history. So to tell you the truth, French is our second language because of colonization, because of we got acquainted. So the whole system, you can find it either in Arabic or in French. English is
Arabic,
a foreign
French.
language. This was until a particular time before COVID a little bit. So there was a movement of Tunisians who were abroad as teachers and expats. So a lot of Tunisians, they do immigrate, but they come back to the country having their own projects. So these Tunisians, they funded schools in here, international schools, belonging to prestigious international systems, not to mention for advertisement, any of those. But they excelled at those schools, which means the little ones that you can find now, they speak English fluently better than French. They do prefer English than French. So we can speak about after the revolution in 2018, the Tunisian revolution, we started having a new generation speaking English fluently as a second language, not as a foreign language. So it's like
Great.
um, a hybrid, let's say, how can we say this? Palette of colors. And we do speak other languages. For instance, very close to the Mediterranean, as I mentioned. So we have the privilege of being near all the beautiful countries in the world, all of them. We do share a lot of things in food, in culture, in language. You can find in Tunisia, in our Tunisian dialect, a lot of words in Italian or
Mhm.
Spanish. El cucina in Arabic, in Tunisian Arabic, is el cucina, which is the kitchen, for instance. Okay,
Uh-huh.
just an example.
Just to mention one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. No, I was asking that question because in our case, well, the main language is Spanish
Oh,
and English as a
second.
second language. Okay, so we learned English at primary school and then high school, and we have the opportunity to continue with the career at university. For example, in my case, I wanted to be an English teacher. Okay, so I decided to take that career, but as a second language. Okay, so in our case, or in my case, this is a great opportunity for me to continue practicing my English, okay, to put it into practice and also learn more about it. And that's why I try to attend conferences, okay, and try to make something different because I take everything I learned from different teachers and put it into practice in my classes. And actually, it has
Very good.
helped me a lot. Yes, okay, in my classes, in my virtual classes as well. So I can teach face-to-face classes, virtual classes. So I think I can handle that, and and that's great. And that's why we are having this opportunity for me, for you, and also for the audience. And I know they are going to watch the video on YouTube when we upload it there, and they will know many things about Tunisia and many things about different countries we have been interviewing. Well, in this case, different teachers from those countries. Okay, and actually, thank you. Now, in our case, I was going to mention that implementing video games or talking about video games or talking about what students like to do, it's very important because if you assigned a topic for a student, probably that topic is not going to be very interesting for him or her. So it's better, okay, tell me, What do you like? Okay, I like video games. Okay, tell me, what about your favorite video game? Okay, so it's this and without knowing that part, that you need to speak something related to this content, so you are giving them the opportunity to express what they really like, and it's totally different in that way. So you're not going to say, talk about your family. Well, teacher, I don't like to talk about my dad. I don't like to talk about my mom. Okay.
Mm.
So tell me about your music. Tell me about your favorite movie, because we're facing that problem. Now, talking about the family, it's a problem nowadays, at least here, to mention father, dad. So we should mention mom and step dad or stepfathers, and or stepmom or stepsister, and
Sometimes, yeah,
that's
it's a sensitive topic for them sometimes.
yeah, exactly. So, and we need to try to contextualize and try to see how we can take that interactive classes, okay, but trying to change those contents, because they can be very sensible topics for students. So, and that can be another interview or another talk that we can have. Okay, so let's continue talking about technology, but actually. And the main idea is to give them the opportunity to be themselves. Okay, so talk about it. Okay, and you check. Okay, very good. For example, I have an anecdote about a written production. Okay, so tell me about your favorite movie. Okay, telling about setting, characters, plot, and climax and reviews. Okay, and one student got close to me and told me, teacher, but I don't have TV. I don't watch movies.
Yeah.
I cannot write anything about it. So come here. What do you like? I like this. Okay. Just in your case, write something about what you like. Okay. And I'm going to evaluate that as a part of the written production. Okay. And it was simple. We didn't hurt anybody with that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I let her the opportunity to complete her task, and that's it. Okay, so we need to find different ways to overcome those situations. Okay, but by the way, let's continue with our interview. Okay, now, and in your case, as an expertise, okay, in your experience and in trainer, and also as a teacher for private institutions or private classes, and tell me about an example of technology-based activity that have increased students' participation. Okay, so what technology-based activity have you implemented in your classes, or you already know that you will implement in your future classes?
So basically, we can, talk about this, as you said, uh, without limits. But I'll try to give a specific example. A lot of students appreciated both projects we worked on. The first one was creating the podcast. So the podcast experience, it has increased really the motivation to the level of personalized learning. I recall an experience. This was at in a Tunisian institution. I have an American system. And once I suggested just the fact, because I do like a needs assessment at the beginning of the academic year to see what my students expect themselves to learn. So I do survey them a little bit and I collect interest from that. And this will help me build up future lessons. So with podcasting, it's like students that were sending, let's say, instead of just one episode, they were sending over and over and over again. It's like they would like to be seen, they would like to be heard, they would like to talk about their interests. And I gave them the freedom, as long as it's academically decent and correct and fit, to talk about their lives. So I had that, I forgot the word I was about to say. It's like the not only the freedom of talking about themselves, the vulnerability, that's the word I was looking for. It was amazing like students, they were away from their families. They're starting. The first academic year was actually their first adult independent life. They were working and studying at the same time. So the podcast was kind of voicing out that. It was for them an opportunity to convey an identity for themselves. And also other students, they talked about their hobbies. They were, apart from being students, they were artists as well. I had a dancer student who is leading also it's a gym where he trains people how to do their choreography, and how he was also a champion internationally speaking. He was competing outside of the country. So let's say podcasting was for them speaking up their truth. So it has increased not only the motivation, but also it gave them a sense of identity, a sense of belonging to the classroom. And they started suggesting, can I work with a colleague, for instance, instead of just doing it as a solo podcast? And then we started doing the pair work, the pair work and the peer work. So, and until I had podcasts, Eric, trust me on this, and it's available on Spotify. People can just Google it. They can listen to this. They can subscribe to their channel. It's still valid. I had two students talking about philosophy in a podcast, like mentioning a lot of theoretical aspects. Another student, he talks about Dostoevsky. He liked the author, and he starts reading some of the extracts from the book with the background music. It was purely genius for me and for everybody, for them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you. Now, I have a greeting here. Actually, we have one question from teacher Christine Gamboa. Actually, she rocks as an English teacher here in Costa Rica. So, what about the topic? Okay, the topic is about education in Tunisia, and also how we can integrate technology in our classes. Okay. And also we have this comment, okay, for sure I understood, okay, what is written in English, but what about his or her name? So can you help me in pronouncing that name?
My name, I told you from the beginning. Tell them that I sent you a voice note how to pronounce my name. Sometimes a lot of people, because of cultural difference, it's a proper name. Just like in any other language, you can see accents and you can see inverted question marks in Spanish, for instance. So my name is Yousra Ferchichi. And I'm Tunisian. I'm from Tunis, from Tunisia. My last name is basically a mosaic, a lot of things, but I do spell it the French way. It's Ferchichi.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. And what about the one that we have in the comment? So that's Arabic. You cannot see it.
I was trying to get it to the live from my phone. I shared it. Just a second. Just give me it.
It says hi from Sa. I mean, it says Sudani. Nice to see you.
I can see it. Yeah.
What about her name or his name?
Manousa Sharif.
Okay.
Manousa Sharif.
Okay, probably one of my friends from Egypt, from the last conference. Okay, very good. So,
Manousa, and to everyone.
Yes, hello to Egypt. Great.
Yes, I do love Egypt so much. I was there actually.
I want to go. Yeah, I want to go there one more time. I need to visit Luxor. That's what I couldn't.
Same. I'm going there.
Yeah, great. Okay, great. And for sure you took many photos and you enjoyed a lot that trip.
I did, actually. Okay. I did have so much fun, yes.
Okay, great. Now, okay, let's continue. Okay, we have been talking about culture, okay, but let's go straight to the point here. How do you promote, we as teachers, or in your case as a trainer, okay, or in your classes, how do you promote cultural relevance when training teachers in different regions or contexts? For example, if you have had the opportunity to train teachers in different parts in Tunisia. Okay, so how do you promote that cultural relevance?
So what can be valid in one place cannot sometimes be valid in another place. Be it sometimes in a school, not valid in another school. But basically, I do rely and focus on something that can be ethically acceptable everywhere, and be it international, let's say. So it should be as international as possible. So the cultural aspect can be with variations, for instance, in the activities themselves. So uh, ask teachers, for instance, within the activities and the brainstorming, how they can adapt this to their context. So for instance, in some areas, in some regions, as you said, some students, they don't have access to internet. They don't have computers. You can't really train teachers to teach their students with VR. Still, they did not reach another, let's say, less challenging step. So the cultural aspect here is blended. It's mixed with the human aspects. So the human aspect is, for instance, if a student pronounces a word in a particular way, which is culturally imprinted in our culture. So let the students be themselves. Do not really autocorrect them every time, like kind of, it will prevent them from learning. And what if they have a different accent that is not a standard accent? Teachers themselves, they try to mimic sometimes the British accent or the American accent. So better have your own accent as long as it's intelligible. So this is, for instance, when it comes to teaching speaking and pronunciation. So those cultural aspects can be the books as well. So we had a lot of teachers adapting some of the books to the Tunisian context, because a Tunisian student will much more associate himself or herself to a story about something that looks like his context. So this is, let's say, encouraging teachers. If they're themselves, they will let their students be in themselves. It's like a mindset. So training is good because, there's a difference between training and coaching. And allow me, please here to really clarify this quickly. Training is like a transfer of knowledge. I know this. I know how to drive a car, for instance. I will take someone with me, and with few practice hours, they will learn how to drive a car. That is different. But coaching is kind of taking a torch and illuminating those blind spots. They're not there. So if the mindset changes, everything will change. Going back to what I said, teachers should be themselves. As long as they're themselves, they will let their students be themselves. Culturally speaking, we're talking about the cultural aspect here.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you a lot for your answer about this important question. So, in my case, I have been, well, I cannot say that I am a trainer here, but I have shared my experiences using digital platforms or educational platforms in my classes. And I have taught those techniques into different regions. And I agree on what you said, okay, related to that. Now, let's talk about burnout. Okay, so what role does what role does technology play in supporting teachers' well-being and reducing burnout?
Can I really flip your question a little bit?
Okay, for
Yeah,
sure.
because once I talk about burnout, I just focus on first and foremost and only on the human being.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time burnout is because of that. It's because of the screen time, it's because of the hours and hours we spend planning our lessons, the hours we spend using our mobile phones. So allow me please to talk about maybe teacher burnout, generally speaking, and how to reduce it. You can't pour from an empty cup. So if a teacher is not privileging one's life, one's uh, mental health, especially, they will end up with burnout. To reduce it, I don't see it honestly. So if you want to answer, maybe that can be subjective. From a point of view, never had a burnout really been reduced through AI or through technology or through, unless it's really a plane that can take you from one place to the other, or maybe watch a movie. So having quality time is
Mhm.
essential to avoid burnout. Having that inner journey, going back to oneself, going back to the source. You know, once you wake up early in the morning, it depends when you wake up. The first thing everybody has in his or her mind, and how can I do this? It's a to-do list. What should I do this? When should I finish this? And multitasking, especially for working moms and working dads, a lot of things. And where is the human? When do you see your kids at night? When do you talk to them? When do you take them to play outside? Having a life. That's how we can reduce burnout. So I'm sorry that I flipped your question in this sense.
No,
Technology can
no,
be,
that's okay.
yeah, it can be good, but for instance, they can for it can help them, for instance, at work, let's say professionally speaking, to kind of reduce. I don't agree with planning lessons with ChatGPT, but sometimes some teachers they do that batch, lesson prep. I don't see this as authentic, but this can reduce burnout. But
Mhm.
grading sometimes, grading with AI can be a good thing. And you double check. For instance, if it's an MCQ, you can take a test, for instance, but it's not efficient to grade 100 class papers. It can be useful once, twice, for one occasion. Technology can reduce burnout in this sense. Um, Technology can enable us to talk to each other today. It's like it has a lot of advantages of bringing people together. So to reduce burnout, I see, for instance, teacher associations. We do associate ourselves with like-minded people, and
Mhm.
for me, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be connected to people all over the world. Look at me here from Tunisia and you in Costa Rica. So without internet, we couldn't have made it.
Yeah, sure. Excellent, great. Okay, and let's move on. Okay, to talk about one important content related to education. Okay, which is soft skills. Now, people know about it and people talk about it, but they don't know how important it is. Okay, so we can mention, for example, here I have just to mention some of them. We can talk about public speaking, written communication, non-verbal communication, teamwork. Okay, creativity, decision making, adaptability, goal setting, work life balance, which is very important. And also, we can take it to the educational field. For example, for teachers, we can talk about communication, patience, which is very important, empathy, and also classroom management, conflict resolution, time management, creativity, which is very important. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're using technology or not, leadership, and what about students? Okay, so we have critical thinking, self motivation, time management as well. So they need to know how to split their time during the day. Respect, conflict resolution. So we can mention all of them. But in your case, as a trainer, as an English teacher, okay, so I have this question. So, what can you tell me about soft skills, okay, as a general definition, and how teachers deal with it or with them in our education field, and also how do you incorporate soft skills such as communication and adaptability into teacher training programs?
Thank you, Eric. So I will start first of all by the perception of soft skills because the definitions they're really impressive. Theoretically speaking, everybody can hypothesize about problem solving skills and interpersonal skills, but just like any other skill, they take training to be acquired. A lot of people, they say they're innate skills, but still you have to work through them. And people divide skills into soft skills and hard skills. Nowadays, we should be speaking about essential skills, which brings both of them together. In the classroom now, for teachers and students equally. As I said, we're models. We should model this. We should lead by example. So if a teacher does not really portray the adaptability, being approachable to students whenever they have questions, whenever they seek further feedback, whenever they say, we don't want students to be afraid of asking questions. For instance, if they do have questions, something I didn't understand. So those soft skills, I do believe in having them really used hands-on. How do I implement them? I implement them in my life, in teaching, basically. I do teaching more than teacher training. I do coaching as well. So how they're implemented, I can recall, and I tell you about an experience that I had with, let's say, soft skills, then blended training and coaching at the same time. So I was at a session. It was a session, and it's a training session with a coaching aspect. And the session was about how to deliver an icebreaker speech to introduce yourself to a new audience. And I had candidates and participants struggling still with English, others struggling with public speaking in general, in Arabic or in French, whatever language is it. So the workshop itself was framed in a way, was kind of with an increased level of difficulty. We started with brainstorming and sharing aspects about oneself to create like kind of a blueprint to those people attending there. How do you see your identity? Can you tell us more about yourself in one word? Until that icebreaker speech was ready by the end. And I had it very recently with another workshop, with the Ikigai workshop. And I had the participants creating their own websites about themselves. So they used all those criteria of soft skills. They have the interpersonal skills. So they had to go through kind of Venn diagram. They had to work some of the aspects, some of the points that they're very strong in their personal traits, until they had the final result, posting their photos with those strengths on a website, shareable by the end of the session. So that's how I implemented this, practically speaking. And I do really believe that soft skills is a good umbrella. It's a fancy, nice word, but it should be really implemented. And it's not to be dissociated from hard skills. They go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, actually, many teachers ask about it, so soft skills, but how implement them in our classes? Okay, so it's not only knowing theory. So what can we do to implement them? For example, exactly. Okay, and that happens a lot when a teacher, well, let's say when a person advises teachers to use different apps, okay, but that person doesn't teach how to work with them, okay, just theory, okay, just you can use it, but okay, I need to know how to use it, okay.
Yeah.
And that's very important. So if you're telling me that this is important, so it's the same for me. So how to implement it? Tell me strategies. Tell me how to deal with it, and how to improve my students' performance in the class by using or applying soft skills, okay, which is very important. Okay, great.
If I can add something really quick, Eric, I'll add something related to the CELTA training. And I figured out after doing the CELTA, after I did the ICF coaching, CELTA is basically built on those soft skills: eliciting, ICQs, CCQs. What else? Demonstrating to the student, as you mentioned, we never give a student, this is the tool, go figure it out. It's like we demonstrate, we model, we show an example. A lot of scaffolding happens. So those are soft skills to be used in the classroom, and they're to be embodied by the teachers themselves first and foremost. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, now let's move on to, okay, we were talking about challenges before, okay, but let's go deep in this question. So it says, well, deeper, that will be, what are some of the main challenges teachers face in Tunisia nowadays? Now, we know totally different talking about private and public education, okay, but tell me in general, if you want to talk about private education, so that's okay. But what do you see or what do you know about public education in Tunisia, about challenges?
The challenge is basically, if we link it to using technology or not, still there is a need to implement the logistics. So sometimes in some areas, regions in here, the logistics are needed. It's like teachers and students, they're hearing about technology and not really practically applying this. That can be frustrating sometimes. But here, the good thing about Tunisia is like we do address challenges with a lot of proactivity, with a growth mindset, with a lot of wisdom. We do have a lot of teacher training, so that for equity, so everybody's trained on using technology. We do have a lot of support from NGOs, for instance. The sustainable aspect is still here. So those NGOs are working on making it really inclusive. And students themselves, they're working on that entrepreneurial aspect. While studying, they can start their own startup. And we do have something really very unique to Tunisia, which is the Startup Act. And the Startup Act, it's a legislation, it's an act that enables a freshly graduated student to have his own startup without paying any taxes for 1 year, which is a privilege. So students now, a lot of them, without mentioning now a few examples, so my friends, if they'll be watching this, they will know, they have their own startup. And they not only work, but they employ their friends as well. So the challenges here, as I said, they're addressed with a lot of wisdom, a lot of proactivity. Is like if there's a will, there's always a way. So that's how we address it in a sense. But still, support is really good. It's appreciated. Collaboration is also appreciated. For instance, I used to work at an international school back in the time, and we used to have a lot of what we call a sister school. We used to have a partnership. We learn, schools, they learn from each other. Instead of having paid training, we do send, for instance, teachers and vice versa, and we learn from each other. And once they go back to their initial institution, they do apply what they learned in the for instance, in our institution. We did this nationally and internationally as well. I was part of an international training as well. And I learned a lot. And when I went back to my country, I applied this in my context. So this is really, really important. Having that openness to share and openness to receive equally.
And that's important. Well, maybe it's not content or let's say questions we wouldn't like to answer. So we don't like to talk about problems that we face every day, but it's important to mention them and also find a way to overcome them. Okay, so what I can do to fix this situation. So if I am facing this, so how can I fix it up and how can I change this? For example, students' motivation can be a problem. Why? Because you well, teachers have the same way to teach, okay, since 1986, for example. So, and they are not going to be motivated in that way. So if you try to teach or implement something different, so maybe students' motivation will be like, great, okay, now we feel good and we can learn a lot. And we can take advantage of the methodology we can implement. Now, for me, one phrase which is very important, and actually you saw it at the beginning in the introduction, it says play and learn. So
Yes.
if we play, we learn, and that works a lot in our environment. English is a second language, so we need to put it into practice. But we need to make a difference between playing and also teaching and learning, because
Right.
it's totally different.
Right.
And let me give you an example. In At the beginning of the classes, we tend to, well, in my case, greet the students. Okay, good morning, class. Good morning, teacher. So that's the same. How are you today? And some of the students answer the question and also repeat, okay, that question. But when you ask to them, okay, tell me, how do you say "cómo estás" in English? Okay, how are you in English? Okay, so they say, I
Bien.
don't know.
Oh,
Okay. What do you mean? I don't know. But okay, good morning, class. Good morning, teacher. How are you today? So there you have the phrase. So, and they don't make that connection. And that's a problem, because we need to put it into practice to create a context. So they repeat the phrase. And that happened to me when I was at high school learning French. I remember, well, I don't know if I pronounce it good, but I remember bonjour class, bonjour professeur, comment
bon.
ça va bien. I don't know. I remember that, but I know that means how are you? I'm
Yeah.
pretty well, or I'm fine. I don't know. Okay,
Mhm.
but I cannot have a conversation. I just learned that phrase and that's it. Okay, no more. And I remember that, and that's why we need to make it different for our students. Okay, not only repeating phrases. For example, when we play, stand up, sit down. Okay, classroom commands in the class. Now,
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
say,
That's good.
how do you say levantarse, ponerse de pie, sentarse in English? Okay, so I don't know. So what do you mean you don't know if 5 minutes before we were playing that and you were sit down, stand up, move to your left, move to your right, sorry, and we were playing that. But at the moment they were playing, they were paying attention to instructions. But when we stopped playing, they don't care about English. Okay, so they just, okay, now let's continue, and that's a problem we're facing nowadays. So we need to change that chip and try to make kids understand, or students, that
Yeah.
how important is English. For example, English is very important for me. Why? Because it allows me to communicate, in this case with you. Now, it allowed me last year to attend a,
A
an
conference.
English conference in Cairo and also in Puerto Rico as well. Okay, and actually, it opens many doors if you know how to communicate or you learn English. Now you can get better job opportunities. So, and that's the same when you teach reading. Okay, so it's not just read the text, answer these questions. So you need a purpose for reading. So we're going to read this because you're going to learn something from the reader.
Mhm.
From the reading. It's
Yeah.
not about just knowing, okay, this is the question one, and this is the answer, and that's it. Okay, check, 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 100, and that's it. So tell me what you understood about the reading. Okay,
So,
so tell me, what about the moral at the end of the
mhm.
story?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me a summary with your own words, okay, about paragraph number one.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's different, and we are going to implement in that case critical thinking, and also they are going to learn how to express their ideas and also produce in English, which is very important in our case, as English as a second language here.
There is a method actually, Eric. I've just remembered something now talking about L1 and L2. And students are really allowed to learn L2. In our case, it's English, using L1 which is Spanish in your case and Arabic in my case. This is called the translation method. So the translation method is like you can give them a text in their native language and then the same text in English, and students, they can associate words together, understand meaning, and later on the questions will be in English. So the translation method allows them to associate, for instance, I used it with a Turkish student back in the time in 2019. She did not understand any single word in English. Fresh, she really, so here, I took a trainer at that time with a workshop. It was with the American, with an American institution. And I remembered well that I could really use what we call the Pictionary as well. It's like showing the word itself in a photo, and she has to match it. The word with the name, of course, it should be in English. She should match it. So it was, for her, at the beginning, it was a little bit difficult, but we managed at the end of the school year to get few words said, a few sentences in English. Also, there is another project that I did, and it was a Projet Interlangue, which was a project between myself, and my colleagues teaching German, French, and Arabic. So we had a common project because the students, they're all ours. So we did it, we call it Lost in Tunisia. It was a short video that we did recorded with our mobile phones and the students. And it was a private institution in Tunis. And it was about a group of students. They were going to an exchange program and the airplane crashed. And thinking that they reached their destination, they found themselves in a place in Tunis, in an island called Jerba. And Jerba in Tunis is really known as a multicultural space. So they had to communicate together, and English was that too, but most of the case it was their different languages because they came also from different backgrounds. So variety is key, and using that for our benefit is really essential for the students' benefit, because multilingualism, Eric, now is the future.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you. And okay, finally, as a teacher trainer, okay, we have been working as teachers many years, okay, and we can talk about experiences and anecdotes in our classes. But in your case, okay, as a teacher trainer, what inspires you most in your role?
The people that I deal with, they're always an inspiration. I come up always as a different person after I interact with a group of teachers, students, colleagues. So the experience, just like today, Eric, the experience is really enriching. We do know more about each other. And, it's the experience plus one.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, actually, you said what I was thinking about. People we deal with. For example, in my case, my students, in my case, colleagues, for example, in your case, or my friends in different countries as well. So, and I feel like you in that way. And also my friends here and my colleagues here in Costa Rica, okay, because we can learn a lot from them. For example, as I said before, teacher Christine is amazing, implementing different strategies, using her TikTok account for that, or social media, okay, to teach others, okay, and I check teacher Christine's TikTok to learn more about different strategies, and it's amazing. And I have learned something, that if you think about an activity, do it. If you think about a strategy, do it. If you think about a method, apply it. Why? Because if we think, okay, I don't think it's gonna work, I don't think my students will like it, I don't think it could be good for teachers or English teachers. Now we are not going to know the final results if we don't apply it. And that happened a lot in my first interview. I was thinking about the main a purpose of interview number 1. I didn't expect to get to interview number 11, okay, and I hope to continue number 12, 13, 14, like that. And I started last year. And you see, and actually people are paying attention to my interviews, and they are, wow, it's amazing to have that relationship with other teachers. And also they explain and talk about their educational system, and also how implement different strategies in their classes. And that's amazing because we learned from each other, and actually it's amazing.
And you're doing a great job, actually. It's wonderful as an experience. I really enjoyed it. And it's your energy, Eric. It's like the way you approach speakers, the way you do it. It's very professional. So I wish you the best. This is just the beginning for you until you can have, thousands of interviews like this, or even more better than this one.
And I hope to meet you face to face one day at the
Inshallah.
conference, for sure.
Inshallah, for sure. Inshallah.
Yeah, it will be great. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. I truly appreciate your time and the chance to learn more about your job, okay, what you are doing in Tunisia, and also what you do as an English as a teacher trainer as well. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and thank you very much. Have a nice day. I really appreciate your time.
Just something quick, Eric, if still you did not really interrupt the stream live. Part of teacher associations, we have a new experience now. It's with TESOL conferences. I've started a new special interest group, and this is meant also for teacher training, for not to train teachers, but for teachers who want a safe space where they can share their work, their success stories, and it's related to AI and digital technologies. And this is a great opportunity to everybody, including yourself. So see you, inshallah, in one of those events.
I will know that. I will search for more information about it.
Thank you. I'll send you over. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. I will wait for that information. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you.